My name is Yovette. If you haven't seen me before, thank you for joining me today. I'm starting out with liquid water mixable linseed oil, and I'm not using any thinner today, just the oil and my good old trusty chip brush. So these chip brushes work great for using an undercoating. It's been suggested that I just try a mixture of 50% linseed oil and 50% titanium white. So that's what I'm doing. And it mixes very, very nicely. You want to just mix it till it's a very, very creamy consistency. And that should be absolutely perfect. It will spread on your canvas easily, and you should have no problems at all. Now let's do the finger test. 3 fingers, and if you can see your fingerprint clearly, then you have it on absolutely perfect. So now my colors are loaded. I'm ready to go. We're going to start out with just yellow. And I want this yellow in the sky. I'm probably about the upper third of the way of the canvas. Next, let's go into a little sap green and just go around the outer edges of the yellow. This makes a pretty transition color. I'm not using any crimson today, it's just the yellow, green, and I'll be using blue. Now into my blue, let's do the top corners first because I want those a little darker. You always want to dry your eye into the center of the painting, so your edges should be much, much darker. Okay, my brush has white on it yet, so I want to add white to the center of the sky. Put it down below. It has to go in both places. I want this a little bit brighter. Use as many coats as you need to get a bright spot in your sky. I realize not all of you will be using the exact same colors, but I'm sure that they'll be pretty close. Now into blue and crimson. I just want a nice mix. Actually, I added probably about 50-50 mix, but sometimes the blue can overtake your brush. And just start tapping. And I start usually a little bit low and then go up some so that the tips of the brush are up higher, making lighter branches. And then I make it heavier as I go down. Let's add one here. So you notice that these trees are much closer together. And that's exactly what I wanted. And I'm adding a little sap green this time because I want to change the color just slightly. Just keep tapping. Bring it down to about the middle of the canvas. I never would have thought that those 2 colors, or 3, would have made it pretty tree background, but actually they work pretty good. It's kind of almost like a fall color. So I added a little white because I want just some background bushes here in the distance. There, that should be good. Let's add a little green to this one too. It needs to be just a slight bit darker. Now starting to work on the foreground. Notice I'm tapping upward. You can tap up or down. I started upward, but I also like tapping down, so whatever is easiest for you to spread that paint on. So just with dark brown, any dark brown that you have, let's start making tree trunks. And you notice I'm just using the knife this time rather than a brush. The knife works fairly well for making tree trunks. You just give it little taps. And I don't want all my trunks identical, so I'm kind of making them a little bit different. Do these over on the right side also. I kind of like the way this crimson color comes through and in front of the yellow sky. It seems to make it kind of like a little iridescent, which is kind of neat. So vary your shapes, vary the size of your tapping. And this last little tree over here. Adding some titanium white to my brown. I want a marble mix because I want to start the highlight on the tree. So my sun is here, so on this tree my highlight would be on the right hand side. I'm not tapping real strong, I'm just doing little taps so that only some of the paint comes off. It makes it look more like bark. But on this side of the canvas I have to change because the highlight would be on the back side of the tree, or excuse me, the front side of the tree. Me being a left-hander, this is awkward. I could have done it a different way, but I chose this way, and it worked. Just little taps here and there. And let's add a little white in the background. These are way off distant trees, so they're not real distinctive, but they're there. Now into my oil, I'm dipping my brush. I'm working with two brushes. My one brush has light colors on it for highlighting, and my other brush has the dark colors. So this, with my light brush, I'm starting out with my rim up because I want to make a little dog paw kind of. When I pull the paint through, it's bending the brush a little bit. Just kind of like a spring. You just want to bounce in and bounce right back out. Not pressing too hard though. Not liking the way this is turning out. So I'm using the tip of my brush now rather than turning it upside down, just loading one way and just straight from the palette to the canvas. That is working better. Yes, I like that. Just mixing a little white, a little yellow. And you mostly want to get the tips of the tree on the left-hand side on this tree. More yellow. Now a little green because I just want to change the color a little bit. I don't want every single tree identical. And just lightly tapping here and there, just kind of make little bush Boy, the trees are actually like little bushes in the tree. Lots of little bushes. Now this highlight probably is not going to show up so much because the sun is right there, so. But it will show up some. And a little bit on this left side of the tree. More yellow, white, and green for the end tree. I should have thought I could have put some yellow ochre in here too. That would have been pretty. But these colors are fine. I like them. Now let's let's do some bushes in front of the trees. Just want to add a little bit of highlight to these background trees, a little more red. And let's put some on this side. Just taps. And green in the center. And just keep tapping your grasses in. Turning your brush sideways gives you a kind of a new look. That is kind of a grassy look also. Gonna go up or down with your brush. And I want this a little darker down here, so let's just add some brown to it. This is going to be pretty much covered anyway. Now let's work on the path. I wanted to come in more from the left side and then just kind of meander down towards the center of the painting. I'm just using a mix of white and dark brown. Just make sure that your paint is really marbled. That's what makes the difference. I had to add brown. So I want this a little bit darker in the foreground here. You can make your path, you can put your path anywhere that you like. You could have it coming in from the other side if you desired. But I just thought this was nice. So now let's add the foreground banks or the rocks. It would be ground cover, I guess. And I just got a load of paint, just pull the paint out and grab a knife full, and this paint is going on really, really thick. Doing rocks, stones, banks, things like that. You want to make that paint really thick and rough so it has a lot of texture. And I'm just bringing it in now on this side also. Just fill it in. Now with my brush, I'm just bringing down, oh, probably about an inch, and wipe the brush and just bring it across very lightly, just to make that watery look. You want to make these reflections in the water. Now more brown. Let's add some more bank. So we're just going to enclose that a little bit and make kind of a pond. You know, I must confess, I absolutely love the water mixable oils, and I will never go back to using regular oils again. I never use the 2-inch brush at all. But using those brushes, those kinds of brushes, they use so much paint. I made a boo-boo there. I forgot to turn on my camera. But I did the same thing as the background. I just highlighted and made the water reflections. So now a little bit light blue and white, or just some blue and white, making a light blue color. I want to do some water lines. You could do this with a liner brush, or you can do it with your knife. I kind of like the way the knife works. Gives you, I think, a lot straighter lines sometimes. Just tapping here and there. I'm not making a solid line. I'm just kind of varying the lines. Now with just some sap green, I'm tapping into the foreground. I want to make little ground cover here, a little kind of bushy-like, not real bushes, but just kind of grassy, bushy. A little bit on the right side here and left side. Not so much on the left side. I didn't want this one too bold. Adding a little yellow. I want to make that a little bit lighter. And just keep making the taps. And if you don't want to add these grasses and the ground cover in the front, you don't have to. You could put a rock in the front, or anything else that you desired. Now with my liner brush, going into dark brown, I'm just getting this very ink-like, very, very thin mix. Because you know me, I have got to have my little birdies. Be sure and twirl your brush, bring it to a fine point. Brace your hand, gently down, up. This side is more awkward to do because I'm facing the bird a different way. But it'll work. And let's just do, oh, maybe here and a couple here. Now I want to bring some grasses up, and I want the first grasses to be on the dark shade, on the dark side. You got your paint has to be really thin for this. Not so thin that it's runny though, because otherwise that makes a horrible mess. And when you're doing these grasses, just pull upward into the water, vary your shapes, make some of them curly, some of them straight, turn some to the left, some to the right. It makes it really look more kind of wild. Yeah, I like this. This is turning out, this is very natural looking, the dark colors in here. Linseed oil, titanium white, and yellow. And let's just go in and make a few light grasses. Not very many of the light ones. Just here and there. Just adds that little bit of spark in the front. Yeah, it's very natural looking. Now with that thin mix, let's go into some white, yellow, and let's add, well, I already put the red, see there again, I forgot to turn the camera on, but I added some red flowers in the front, and now I just want to add a couple of yellow ones, probably like little dandelions or something. I'm just using the liner brush, thin paint, and little taps. In the background, they would be very, very tiny taps because they are so into the distance. And let's just lightly, lightly highlight some of this bank with the blue. Just pull it down as flat as you can, get a little roll of paint on your knife. The lighter your touch, the better it's going to be. It's just like making a mountain, only you're just doing small rocks and pathway and things like that. So it doesn't take very much, just a little bit. Now I'm doing a close-up here because I want to show you the center of the painting. Because that sun is so bright behind there, you would have some highlighted grass in the foreground. So with my filbert brush and yellow, light yellow, I'm just adding and tapping little grasses in the front here. I just want to highlight that some. That'll really make the painting stand out. Lift upward. Those grasses would go into the rocks, up above the rocks. Blend it in. And let's also do some on the right side here. Now when I changed my camera angle, the colors got very, very light. Why that happened, I don't know. It's probably my lighting. But it'll just show you what I'm doing close up. Now lift up. Get that little grassy feel in the background. Actually, you can tap a little harder and just make more of a little bushy look. just blend in. Now the bushies, that makes it look more rough and rugged. And let's just tap in a little bit back here. This would be highlight on this background shrubs. And just a little bit of yellow-red mix up on these upper trees here. Just a little bit more highlight. Here is my finished photo so that you can look at it and copy it if you like. And as you can see, I did change quite a few things, not drastically, but just a little bit more to my liking. I wanted to brighten up the colors for one thing, and I did change the tree trunks on my painting and the foreground. Definitely I changed those two things, and the highlighting, I made it brighter. I like brighter colors. So anyway, well gosh, thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this.